10864. Stations your final time cue will be with 15 seconds until airtime. Mark, 15 seconds until airtime.
The following is a presentation of Learfield IMG College.
This is Duck Insider.
Give it to Verdell. He's got the first down and go! Duck fans start celebrating. Oregon is the 2019 Pac-12 champion. The 2020 Rose Bowl champion.
Richardson, another open three. Good! Duarte dribbles and slams with the right hand. For the third time in the last 5 years, the Ducks are Pac-12 champions. Outright champs.
Foley three. Good! Foley ball. Down Shelley. Three ball. Good! Regular season champions and now Pac-12 tournament champions.
Welcome to Duck Insider.
We're just getting started.
This is Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College. Presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Better banking, local solutions. Live from the Country Financial Studio, here's Joey Mack.
Thank you, and good news as we start the show today. The Ducks were back on the practice field this morning, and Coach Cristobal is going to meet with the media this evening. A little bit of a bump in the road. I guess, can we call it a figurative speed bump? Yeah, we can do that. Ducks were going through the proper protocols, and they were able to return to practice this morning, which is a good sign for Oregon football and Oregon football fans. So if you're just joining us after the 5 positive antigen tests from Oregon football on Saturday, out of an abundance of caution, Mario Cristobal and the Oregon athletics community and public health officials and experts decided to cancel the practice out of an abundance of caution. But they were able to return to the practice field this morning. Good news for Oregon football. And Coach Cristobal with some updates for you tonight. He's going to meet with the media late, about 7:30 this evening, which means that we will have that full press conference for you on Duck Insider tomorrow. So good news.
Very good news.
I feel like everybody now, can you just join me and let's just exercise this together, shall we? Scott, Mitchell Lee back in the radio studio. Let's just all take a collective
That felt good, Joey.
Did it?
I like it.
Everybody feels like they're better now. Mitchell Lee, did you do it back in the radio studio?
Of course I did.
Atta boy.
He's there.
All right. Yeah, so in all seriousness, look, everybody, the Ducks are going to make sure that they do this the right way, and that's what they did over this weekend. Looking forward to hearing from Coach Cristobal coming up tonight. We also, tonight, have our final episode of Great Ducks. This has been such a fun show to produce. If you haven't listened to it, you can subscribe to the Oregon Sports Network podcast on your podcast service of choice, and you'll find it. You also can watch it on the Oregon Football Facebook, the Go Ducks YouTube, or the Oregon Football Twitter. But, guys, we've talked about just some of the best Ducks in the history of the Oregon football program. And we're going to do maybe the 2 most important position groups tonight. That's the offensive line and the quarterbacks. The best quarterbacks and best offensive linemen to ever play at Oregon. That's Great Ducks tonight. 5 o'clock across the Oregon Sports Network. Also on the Oregon Football Facebook, Oregon Football Twitter, and the Go Ducks YouTube, where you can watch the show as well. So who do we think's the best Oregon quarterback of all time? Who do we think's the best Oregon offensive lineman of all time? And who makes the list? I can tell you as I glance at my notes that I have together for Great Ducks. Yeah, there's a lot of names. There is a lot of names that we're gonna talk about tonight. So join us for that. It'll be fun on Great Ducks tonight. We'll take some of your comments and questions, YouTube, Facebook, anything else, and then jump into a few interviews. So today, mentioned Coach Cristobal time with media tonight. Today we'll have Mark Wasikowski. He's going to talk with the media, or well, he did talk with the media, and because Oregon football hasn't done interviews over the last few days with no practice, we're going to zero in on the Diamond Sports today. Haven't had a chance to do that yet, and we're going to spend some time doing that today. Also of note, Coach Lombardi, head coach Melyssa Lombardi from Oregon softball, she met with the media today. We'll also hear from Haley Cruz, Jordan Dale, Ken Yovan, Gabe Matthews, all those as we zero in on the spring sports that are now starting to get their practices rolling. Now, practices look a little different. In fact, they look a lot different. It's not a traditional fall ball, if you will, for Oregon baseball and Oregon softball. But that's what they're having to adapt to, and they're doing that. First question coming from Ashley. What is the probability of fans at softball/baseball? I wish that I had an answer. I don't. It will all come down to where we stand. And as much as I'd love to have an answer to that question, I don't have one right now. But let's hope it's a high probability. Can we hope for that? So everybody grab your mask, mask up. Richard's got his mask. I've got mine. Mask up. And then hopefully we'll be able to be at PK Park and Jane Sanders Stadium watching some epic diamond sports. Because, I keep thinking about, with Oregon baseball, this is a true story. So Alex Simpson, who was just about 3 weekends into being the voice of Oregon baseball, Alex and I have good friends, worked together a long time. And I asked him, hey, you want to come do baseball with me? And he was like, yeah, for sure. And it was awesome. Like, Alex has done a few road series. Pac-12 opener. The team is literally on the bus to the airport to fly down to UCLA when they got the word that everything was postponed. I'll never forget Alex texting me and being like, we're turning around. Just super weird. I also saw recently that HBO is going to do a documentary about the day that sports stood still, which was when NBA gets canceled, all the conference tournaments get canceled or postponed at the time. And it was just, whoa. And these are just, I feel like everyone in the sports landscape, you're going to remember where you were. Like, I remember where I was. And Alex, I know, remembers that. And it's crazy that's heck of a first year behind the mic for Alex Simpson for Oregon baseball. Getting ready for the Pac-12 opener, though, against UCLA, and they literally got turned around on the bus. It was just wild, really wild. Mark Wasikowski, though, Oregon baseball head coach, and you talk about a first year behind the mic. How about a first year in the dugout coaching for Mark Wasikowski as the head coach anyway? He talked to the media recently just about a number of things, took questions about what's going on and how are the Ducks practicing, how are they able to go about doing things, and also who stood out, and with some departures, some guys returning with the eligibility extension. A lot of things to unpack for Mark Wasikowski. He spoke to the media recently, Oregon baseball head coach.
What does fall ball look like when there aren't those 3 or 4 scrimmages and games to be played? I know there's still plenty of practice, but just kind of what's the day-to-day look like? How is it different compared to what it ordinarily would be?
Well, there's a lot of changes. The COVID protocol changes, number one, it's pretty extreme. We've gone to lengths of even having 5 different practices a day. So really what it comes down to is the number of hours that the student athletes are allowed to be on the field stays the same, but the numbers of hours that the coaches are allowed to be on the field, there's no limit. And so for the coaches, and so as long as we're within NCAA limitations for hours, which we clearly are, the coaches have been out on the field quite a bit longer just because the COVID rules. There's recommendations for us to have smaller numbers. Keep it in smaller groups in case there was some sort of a contact tracer or a positive or something like that. If there was something like that, then we would, in smaller groups, minimize the number of people that could potentially be out. That's one of the reasons. We're also trying to do a lot of smaller group work and smaller group practices for player development. But there's a lot of different things. We're not able to scrimmage. We're not able to do a lot of live base running at all. We're not allowed to do any base running really at all unless it's really specific and very strict. There's guidelines with Lane County. There isn't any gray area. It's real simple. We have to get everything we do approved first before we're allowed to do it on the field. So there are some limitations, but the great news is we're able to practice and we're able to be outside and we're able to be with our student athletes. And for us right now, the biggest thing for us that we've seen isn't necessarily just being able to play baseball, but it's being there for the student athletes. These guys need it. This 7 months, 6-7 month stretch has not been good mentally for whether it's, the staff, but specifically the student athletes. It's really had a damage, and being out there is the best therapy.
Hey, Coach, obviously they've waived the 35 roster limit for this upcoming season. What are your it looked to me like you had like 40 plus guys right now on the roster. What are your intentions for like going into this season? How many guys are you going to maintain? That sort of thing.
Well, we don't have any roster limitations this year. We're carrying the same number that we did last fall. And so it isn't like we've got a bunch more guys running around out there. From a player development standpoint, I think it's really hard when you start getting into the 50s and all that kind of stuff. We're not interested in doing that. As a matter of fact, there is legislation to go back to 35-man rosters, not this coming year, but the following year. And that's, at least from what we've heard, is the direction that they're planning on going in, which is great. 35 men on the roster is usually a good number. With us being a little bit heavier than that right now, it's a normal fall. We do that for a lot of reasons. Specifically, in the past, it's been to where we can have scrimmage innings. Unfortunately, this year we can't have scrimmage innings. At least not yet we can't. And so it is still the intent of us hopefully getting to scrimmage innings to where we can have them play and supplement the lost innings from last year, because we lost a lot of innings coming from last year. In terms of the roster size itself, though, it's kind of a none. It's not an issue right now for us, since it's very similar size as what we've carried in the past.
As far as, can you name 2 or 3 guys maybe who've shown quite a bit of improvement, and maybe specifically from the hitting attack side of the team?
Still pretty early. Good question. It's good to see you, Jerry. Good question, though. I mean, the guys, when they left, they were challenged, and as a staff, we challenged our players to, not only be a Pac-12 player, but can you be one of the top 3 players in the league at your position in the Pac-12? Because, we feel like that's a difference maker. That's when you start talking about being a championship level club, you usually see those championship teams have players that are in the top 3 at each position throughout their lineup. And, that's one area of emphasis from last year, moving into this year through the end of the year meetings last year. That was one of the points of emphasis we had. I can tell you this much: Tanner Smith's gotten off to a very good fall. Just looks like he's more physical, swinging the bat very well. Pretty much all the returners, they really did grab on to the things that Coach Martyr and the video tech department kind of put together for them and their the end of the year program and the off-season program that they put together for these guys. I can honestly say that whether it's Tanner Smith, Kenyon Jovan, Gabe Matthews, Josh Kasevich really looks the part, and he's playing shortstop every day out there for us and doing that very, very well. But from an offensive side, he looks much improved. To a man, I can tell you that we've seen tremendous strides with our team in terms of just their metrics, the player development, and it's been exciting. I think they were hungry for it. And although the last 6 months didn't go kind of what they wanted them to be, it did give them an opportunity to focus on specific areas in their game for improvement, which was good. They needed it.
To go back a minute, Wise, to what you are and aren't permitted to do, the base running bit that kind of confuses me here. I realize, again, it's out of your control in terms of what the county allows or doesn't, but are you guys being tested daily? Is that part of the component here? Has that just not started fully yet?
Yeah, no, James, good question. So first and foremost, no, we're not being tested as much as the sports that are starting up right now. So that's number one. So there is a different category of where they put baseball right now in terms of daily testing. We are being tested, but it's not at the same level as the sports, maybe football and some of the other ones. I'm not exactly sure the other ones that are going right now, but I would imagine the basketballs and football for sure. And so, no, we're not in that category right now. I can tell you this much, leads, contact plays, tag plays, whether it's at second, third, home, leadoffs and pickoffs, stuff like that, where you would be in close contact. You're just not able to have athletes within 6 feet of each other. And so it's pretty simple. When you're doing, let's call it multiple base runner tag up drills, when you have a deep fly to center field and you got a guy in second and a guy in first base. Well, on that play, your guy at first base would really be within a 6 foot range probably of that, lead runner at second. And so they're not able to do those kind of things right now. And even running where there's 6 feet or maybe a little bit more than 6 feet, and you're kind of following another runner and going along the same path, obviously the base path, that's frowned upon right now. And so, the good news is, we are able to do some things. The bad news is it's not all things, but, as far as we're concerned, we really don't care. We're on the field right now, and just being on the field, we're not really interested in trying to figure out what they're allowing us to do and what they're not allowing us to do. Whatever they tell us we can do, we're all in, and we're going to stick with the rules. So it's not really a let's try to outthink this thing. And I know that's not where you were going with it, James, but from our standpoint, it's real simple. Whatever they tell us to do, they tell us to wear masks, we wear masks. It's not a debate. It's just, whether we believe in it or don't believe in it and all that kind of stuff. And, when you get 50, 60 people out there, you're going to have people that believe in things, don't believe in things. And the way we've rolled is real simple. We're just, whatever they tell us we can do, however they tell us we need to do it, we're in, we get a chance to play, and we're pumped to be out there playing, and we're going to keep it that simple.
Hey, Coach. So obviously you've got some new guys in the clubhouse. I know you guys are just getting started, but how's it been getting them acquainted and getting them into this roster? And are there any guys that kind of stick out?
Yes, there are some guys that have stuck out. Freshman Isaac Aon, he's really stuck out in a positive way, right-handed pitcher from Fresno. Kid's got a big arm. He looks like he could be a weekend rotation, Friday night type guy early in his career. He's done well. TCU transfer Caleb Sloan, done very well. Amongst other guys, we've got a big arm out of a junior college rank named Patrick Pridgeon. He's been running the ball up there pretty good. A transfer from Stanford University who's a graduate transfer named Nick Bellafronto. He's done a nice job. He's an infielder, third base. There's been some kids that have really jumped out and played well.
Hey, Coach, normally I wouldn't ask you about, one true freshman on your roster, but in this case, I evaluated Robbie Ashford as a football player, and I don't know too much about him as a baseball player. Could you please give us your assessment of him as a baseball player and how you're going to integrate this, a football athlete into your program?
Robbie Ashford, stud of a baseball player. He's the scout's dream. I mean, he's a big kid, 6'3", 210, 215-pound kid who's got all the tools and ability. Yesterday was his mother's birthday. Melanie, happy birthday back there in Alabama. He's what it looks like. He had a chance to sign professionally for baseball coming out of high school, and he's a center field type. Right-handed hit, right-handed throw. He's got tremendous upside on the baseball field. I know he's got a big upside on the football field as well. We haven't seen him yet on the baseball field. I mean, here at Oregon, of course, we had before he got here, and he got a chance to really be a huge contributor as a freshman.
Pretty good stuff talking about Robbie Ashford from Mark Wasikowski. I mean, an athlete like that, highly touted baseball recruit in addition to football. I'm excited just to see what type of athlete he is, both on the football field, baseball diamond. I mean, I think that's just going to be a cool storyline to talk about. Quick time out from inside the Country Financial Studio. More with Mark Wasikowski coming up. It's Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Zeroing in on the Diamond Sports today on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
From the weight room to the classroom, on the field and off it, On Point proudly supports University of Oregon athletics because student athletes do so much more than bring us pride on game day. They bring our entire community together in Eugene and all across Oregon. So whether you're watching the game in the stadium, at home, or at your favorite local business, their success makes all of us stronger. On Point Community Credit Union. Join in. OnPointCU.com. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
As my family continued to grow, I realized I'd have to replace my beloved Jeep with something that has, well, more seats. I'm Jason Hines, Country Financial Rep and father of 7. Whether you're upgrading from your sporty ride with no room for a car seat or finally replacing your well-loved beater that still has a cassette player, you'll want the right protection for your new car. Work with a Country Financial Rep like me and get the protection you need at a price you can afford. Learn more at TakeSimpleSteps.com or contact a local Country representative.
Don't go anywhere. Duck Insider continues after these messages on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College. Learfield IMG College.
Long time no see. It's me, the Rock t-shirt in the back of your closet. Dude, remember? You crowd surfed in me, man. But you haven't worn me in like forever. I get it, you're retired, but I still got some rock left in me. So take me to Goodwill, where I can really make a difference.
Your donations to Goodwill create jobs, training programs, and education assistance for people in your community. To find your nearest donation center, go to goodwill.org. Donate stuff, create jobs. A message from Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting a Teenager. Learning the lingo.
Jelly. Jelly adjective. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same. Visit adoptuskids.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt US Kids, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Joey Mack here with you inside the Country Financial Studio. Great Ducks coming up tonight. We'll talk quarterbacks and offensive line in our final Great Ducks show of the season, 5 o'clock across the Oregon Sports Network and on the Oregon football social media channels. Also of note, this morning, Oregon football back on the practice field following the proper procedure. After the 5 antigen positive tests for COVID-19, Ducks back on the practice field today after a few days off to make sure that they are following the proper protocol. Mario Cristobal will meet with the media coming up tonight. We'll have that interview for you tomorrow on Duck Insider. And today's show brought to you by Jackson's Food Stores, proud sponsor of the University of Oregon Ducks. Stop by your local neighborhood Jackson's for all your game day essentials, everyday specials on game day necessities. You'll have everything that you need for the big game. Go Ducks. A Halloween edition, by the way, of college football this weekend. Always an intriguing time. Always an intriguing time. Should I dress up as Jerry Allen for our Toyota OSN Classic? Actually, it's not a Toyota OSN Classic. It's our preseason special presented by Toyota coming up at 11 a.m. on Saturday live from Autzen. Should I dress up as Jerry Allen?
What would the costume be?
Me.
But Jerry doesn't have that good hair.
Not anymore.
Well.
He used to. What I should do is wear aviator sunglasses like Jerry used to.
Right. Where's that picture?
Great picture of Jerry. I could do like a turtleneck and aviators. I could be young Jerry.
I like that.
Okay.
Mid-'80s Jerry.
Jerry, if you're listening, coming for you on Saturday, buddy. I'm coming for you. Meanwhile, Mark Wasikowski, head coach Oregon baseball, he talked to the media for about another 10 minutes on all things Ducks baseball and what they're facing as they get back to practice now in fall ball. Mark Wasikowski talking to the media. We continue with the Oregon baseball head coach.
Well, this is admittedly like way in the weeds, but I mean, everything kind of is right now. To the roster management component of this with guys coming back, correct me if I'm wrong. So Gabe and Nico do not count against the 11-7 for you this year. With that in mind, would you be like in favor of some kind of transparency for at least within the league, if not the sport as a whole? Because traditionally, equivalency never has had to disclose things, and it's always between the athlete and the institution. But because this is now going to be a 4 to 5 year calculation process, there's something to be said for some level of transparency and accountability here, because how can you know how the other 11 schools in the conference, other than a compliance office saying it's okay, like how is anyone going to know how are people being accounted for when they do have that year that's given back at the end kind of thing? And additionally, it's kind of a second part of that. Now that you know that if they use the last year and it won't count against you, does that incentivize increasing a guy in their junior year going into it? And that if they're good enough to get drafted, hey, they're off your books. But if they're good enough to come back and it may not count against you, then as long as Rob and Eric are okay with it, then hey, you know, why not kind of thing?
Great questions, you know, and I served on the Pac-12 oversight committee that made recommendations to the NCAA and on a national basis as well regarding all these issues. I can share a little clarity to you on those topics. So the 11.7 scholarships isn't going away. We're still at 11.7 scholarships. You know, it's an equivalency sport, and so you really rarely have anybody who's pretty much on anything more than a 75% scholarship on your books. Sometimes you do, very rarely. For excuse me, for this year, you've got your graduate players. And so like a Gabe Matthews who's graduated, where the numbers that he's on don't affect your books, but that's not going to be the case in future years. And so if you were to have graduate transfers or graduate guys, not really transfers, just graduates that are in your program currently for future years, those will count against your 11.7 in future years. And so that doesn't really help you like it did this year when they made the flexibility to be able to manage the roster better in terms of numbers on 11.7. It's a one-year exception only. So it won't be a strategy, I guess, James, moving forward to where you can front load guys maybe the year before they graduate to be able to have them get picked up by your institution at a higher dollar figure and not count against your 11.7. That's not going to be a strategy moving forward because that's going to be countable aid, is our understanding of how that's going to work. You still have 27 guys, counters on scholarship for future years, and it's got to equal 11.7. I don't see that there's, in terms of making it more visible what kids may be on with scholarships and stuff, I think there'd be some serious corruption going on in some compliance department if there was a team that was on more than 11.7 scholarships. I've never heard of that happening. I don't think that would happen. And so I guess from a conspiracy theory, I'm not concerned with that happening, and I've never been in baseball with that happening. It seems like, the numbers, the crunch and all that kind of stuff hit us this year. Next year, I don't see that it's going to be as big of a deal. You're just going to need to be at 11.7. You're going to need to be under 27 counters, just like we always have been after the, MLB draft. And it looks like the draft's going to be 20 rounds instead of 10 as it was this past year. So, we've always managed our rosters. We've always managed 11.7. It's always been more of a challenge in baseball than it would be for any other sport because you've got players that can leave your program after the age of 21 to the draft, not necessarily just their junior year. It's 21 years old or their junior year. And then on top of it, you just get 11.7 scholarships. The NCAA has lifted some of the legislation on stacking aid. I think that's going to help private schools more than public schools. I don't think it's going to help the Oregons of the world as much as it would help your private institutions. And maybe in time there's going to be some, I know there's been discussion at the NCAA level a lot about the need-based aid. And in addition to the 11.7 scholarships, because some schools that have heavy endowments are allowed to give more need-based aid, which could equal your total scholarship allotment. 11.7 baseball plus your need-based aid would sometimes go to 15, 20, 25 total scholarships for your team. And you can see where that could give those teams an advantage on the baseball field. So I could see the NCAA continuing to try to get their arms around that. But in a time where we're trying to get more student athletes that need money, we're trying to get them more money. We're not trying to get them to legislate it to where it minimizes opportunity for student athletes that are in a need-based position. We want to add scholarships for a need-based position to where we can get more people that can't afford, a partial scholarship in baseball, which is what it would take usually for a guy to say yes to a baseball scholarship. They would need to take a partial ride, and that's hard for kids out there right now, especially with coronavirus and the financial impacts that are out there. And so we're all, as college coaches, trying to come up with ways to where need-based projects can be increased, not decreased or legislated further to where it could potentially minimize opportunities for people that need money. We want to try to expand those.
Yeah, Coach, World Series.
Huh. I think we need a new computer. That is the second time that's happened in what, Scott, a week and a half?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. There was like 3 minutes left in his
So, all in favor of blaming Scott Phillips? Hands up. Hands up. Thank you. Thank you. That's good. That's good. Scott's the director. I just sit here. Scott presses buttons.
in the studio.
Yeah, that was great. So anyway, Mark Wasikowski, though, talking with the media, I thought that it was super interesting, though, that question that James Krepke asked him from the Oregonian, how are you going to strategize all this moving forward? Because baseball is an 11.7 scholarship sport, and you have 11.7 scholarships to fill a roster of like 27, 35 guys. So how do you do that? I thought that was a very detailed answer from Coach Wasikowski. And the reason that I love Coach Wasikowski, one of the big reasons I love him so much, is he's so thoughtful and detailed with that kind of stuff. Like, nothing gets by Waz. Nothing. Coming up, we're going to switch gears, talk a little Oregon softball with Oregon softball head coach Melyssa Lombardi. Zeroing in on the Diamond Sports today, it's Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Back inside the Country Financial Studio after this on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
After 2 years of construction, my wife and I finally moved into our dream home. So when a bathtub fixture broke, causing major water damage, I was glad we had the home insurance protection we needed. How do you know your home is protected? Talk to a Country Financial rep like me, Nick Simon. We can help you understand your options and select coverages to meet your needs. Then if something happens to your home, you won't have any surprises. Need the right coverage for your home but not sure where to start? Visit TakeSimpleSteps.com or contact a local Country representative.
All it takes is one drop to make a wave. One beat to inspire a track. One spark to get creativity flowing. With every drop, Life Water refreshes your mind and restores your body. Purified water, pH balanced with electrolytes for taste. Designed with original works of art on every bottle. Let us be your source of inspiration. Life Water, the feel-good water.
Duck Insider continues after this timeout on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
I'm Little Teapot, short and stout.
Here is my handle and here is my spout.
No, Dad, like this. When I get all steamed up, then I shout, tip me over and pour me out.
This is WWE superstar Roman Reigns. It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
Visit fatherhood.gov, brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Steven.
Who said that?
Me, down here.
Ugh, what are you, a yellow booger?
I'm a banana slug, Steven.
What are you doing in my room?
I'm your sense of adventure. It's been a long time since we've had an adventure in the forest.
Mom took me to the forest last year.
I'm a slug, Steven. It took me a long time to get here.
You're right. I should get out.
Yeah, the forest is not that far away.
Hey, Mom!
Come to the forest where the more adventurous you lives. Check out discovertheforest.org for cool places nearby. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Back on Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Joey Mack with you inside the Country Financial Studio. I'm trying to remember. Coach Wasikowski just talked a little bit about, I think, what the schedule could look like ahead there toward the end of his interview. So I say that we office space the computer at this point. I mean, it's happened twice. I mean,
yeah, that's unprecedented.
I think that it's time to office space a computer. Mostly just because, has anybody actually besides me ever done that? Because I have done it with a printer out of a second floor window, and it's one of the most satisfying things that can ever be done.
I did do it with an old printer.
Yeah, the old printers are the best ones to do it with.
I got toner all over myself.
Well, that's a personal problem.
It was part of the printer bashing experience.
Was it?
Yes.
It blew up ink at you?
Well, kind of. I hit it with a bat.
Anyway. Why did you do this? No, this is a story. Why did you do this?
Because I had the printer at home, and I was trying to print out something, and it wouldn't print, and I was very upset. And then the kids are, running around, and I'm like, argh.
When was this?
This was in my younger days, like 5 years ago.
So
it took a beating in the backyard.
There we go, everybody. Office spacing a printer. Anyway, Coach Lombardi met with the media today, and that's part of why we wanted to take today's Zero In on Diamond Sports. Coach Lombardi just talking about her roster, what practice looks like, how different practice looks, and Melyssa Lombardi, look, I mean, they were starting to really hit their stride, I think, in last season. So having some of the leadership like Haley Cruz come back, big deal for Oregon softball. Catching up on all things Duck softball with head coach Melyssa Lombardi.
Hey, Missy, you guys, with everybody back and you add the new freshmen, I'm just wondering if you're expecting these, I guess, the competition in practice to even pick up a step here, just because
it'll maybe be a lot of returners back, but also players pushing them that are also on the roster?
Definitely. I mean, one thing we've talked about since day one is having friendly competition at practice every day. This team this year is our deepest roster that we've had since we've been here. And you can definitely see that these guys walk in the weight room or they step on the field. And as individuals, as a team, they're very locked in, very focused, have really good intent behind what they're doing. And I think it's because they know how talented we are.
Hey, Coach Lombardi, I'm wondering who showed up from the summer and stood out to you as somebody who was like, yeah, this person put in the work and is ready to attack this season.
You know, I think that's kind of a tough question because all of them come from different places. We have a lot of athletes that came from California and were limited. At times they had their facilities, and then at times that they didn't have their facilities. So to answer that, what I would tell you is with having lack of facilities at times, I thought our team, they all, with dealing with COVID, came back in pretty good shape. We knew as a staff that we were going to have to start things out a little slow and just gradually, you know, usually when they come here, we push them a little bit quicker, and we had some athletes that came in great shape. But I think just in general, we gradually pushed everybody. But I can tell you just the intent from day one, it's been there. It's been there. We were, as a staff, really not knowing what our team was going to look like when they arrived on campus at all. And I think everybody came back in really good shape with what they had to work with. And we have moved really well as a team.
Melyssa, what kind of challenges as a coaching staff does this year's roster perhaps present to you guys, given the fact that you had all the seniors that were able to return because of COVID, and then you had the incoming freshman class? You know, you mentioned your depth, but I'm sure that there's a lot of players and a lot of things you probably need to sort out as well, right?
Sure. I think the biggest challenge is just our roster. It's the biggest it's ever been. So, you know, hitting, we have 5 hitting rotations where we usually have 4 hitting rotations. And so it shaves a little time off each station. We've got to be we've always been very particular and prepared for practice, but just there's more people at practice than there has been. And so just managing our team, I think, would be the toughest. And I think they've handled it well. I think we've done a great job as a staff. What I would tell you has been the most tricky thing for us, and you're going to laugh because it's not so much on the field. It's the stuff we do off the field. Usually the first day these guys get here, we go and have a compliance meeting. And then the next morning we hop in a couple different SUVs and we head to our team retreat. And we're not able to do a team retreat this year because of COVID and dinners that we would normally do with the athletes and just different things that allow us to come together and really unite as a team off the field. That's what we haven't been able to do. We've been able to figure out how to go about practice and stay within protocol, but it's the team building that's been our biggest struggle.
All right, Coach, thank you for your time. My question for you is, you guys had a tremendous momentum last season before COVID hit. So what is your team's attitude like coming into this season? Are we kind of hitting a restart button, or do we want to kind of pick up from where we left off from last season?
I think you would see from them, how we finished, you know, it was tough getting canceled. They were in a really good place as a team. We were getting ready to open up the pack. So I think from their point of view, they just want to pick off right where they left and continue. I think from a coach's point of view, each year, regardless of what happened the year before, it's a new journey. And so them understanding that this is yes, I would love to pick up right where we left off, but it's a new team, a new journey. So we still got to hit that grind with our process that we go through in the fall to be ready to go in the spring. But they're eager. They feel like they've got some unfinished business.
Coach, I'm wondering, in this era where nothing's guaranteed, we don't even know what next week's going to look like, right? What can you just describe the advantage it is, locker room wise, to have returners like Haley Cruz and Jordan Dale as kind of that calming force to bring people together? And if you have an example of that, that would be great too.
Yeah, no, having returners is huge. I mean, when you have returners, it helps us as coaches, because as coaches, you know, every time we get on the practice field, like we feel like we have a bunch to do and a lot to teach. And when you have returners, you're not having to, you don't feel that as much. It's like getting the new ones to understand how to get on board. And the returners, it's like you kind of pass the baton and allow your returners to do that. I can give you an example. Yesterday we were doing some situational hitting, and we were going off of our offensive card that they wear on their arm. And we didn't miss a beat. It was our first day doing it, but our returners prepared all of the young ones, the new ones, about how to read it, what things mean. And we were able just to get right through it, like if we were in practice last year. So it says a lot when you have returners. I think it allows us as coaches to sit back just a little bit and allow them to coach each other up. And they've all been doing a really good job of that.
How weird is practice? Like, what kind of things are you not able to do? What kind of things are you able to do? I mean, just what's the update on kind of the bizarre nature of all of this?
Sure, it's different. And even when we got canceled in March and we were getting ready to be canceled, we just kept talking about adapting, adapt. That's all we can do is adapt, push forward. I mean, that's the thing that they're probably tired of hearing us saying, but it's the truth. Right now, the main protocol is that we've got to wear masks, which they've all done an excellent job. There's certain ways we have to enter and exit the building and all that. They've done great with that as well. When we're on the field, we have to have our mask on and we have to stay 6 feet distance from each other. So with that, with the scrimmage, you got a play coming into second. You can't have the shortstop going for the tag and the runner sliding into second, because now we're inside that 6 feet. So we've had to get a little creative where we've set up maybe an extra base so we can still have the timing of the play, but then we are away from each other. And the first day we did it, I was just kind of like fingers crossed, like I hope this works, because so much of our practice is strategy and just being in the thick of it versus just drill. And we did it, and it worked really well. The runner has a clear direction of where they're going. The defender is able to make their play, and we're able to stay within protocol. So would we like to have it just regular and normal? Yes. It would make things a lot easier. Of course it would. But I think we as coaches, and even our athletes too, are just finding ways to be creative, to be able to have live situations going on, but again, stay within protocol.
How are things going in trying to set up a spring 2021 schedule for you?
It's going. Right now, I think just what you've seen with the NCAA, it was really important for them to get their fall sports figured out. And now they're doing winter sports and getting their schedule. So from there, they're working on us, and we're kind of next. So, really, there's not a lot of things like etched in stone. We have a calendar for our spring season, and if we're able to stay on track and be normal with our calendar, then that's what we'll do. I think there's just still some things up in the air. We're getting closer, but we're just not quite there yet. But it's being worked on. I can tell you, as a head coach in the Pac-12, we have meetings as a group. Everybody's trying to figure it out. I think one of the toughest things for us, especially for softball and in a spring sport, is just getting canceled last year, and we really don't want to get canceled this year. We want to be able to complete our season, and so I think all parties involved are working hard to figure out a way to make that happen.
Yeah, the scheduling is going to be difficult really for all sports. Still waiting confirmation and official word on men's basketball and women's basketball schedules, as well as the conferences and the different head coaches figure that out. So Coach Lombardi, rest of the spring sports, trying to figure that out as well. Quick timeout. When we come back and hear more from Oregon softball. Stuck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union, back inside the Country Financial Studio next on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
From the weight room to the classroom, on the field and off it, On Point proudly supports University of Oregon athletics, because student athletes do so much more than bring us pride on game day. They bring our entire community together in Eugene and all across Oregon. So whether you're watching the game in the stadium, at home, or at your favorite local business, their success makes all of us stronger. On Point Community Credit Union. Join in. OnPointCU.com. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
This football season, prepare your taste buds for the most iconic sports watching drink of all time, Pepsi. With refreshing deliciousness specially formulated to keep your eye on the ball and mouth-watering fizziness to help you power through game day, Pepsi has everything you need to start strong.
I used to care when Mike cheered so hard he spilled nacho cheese on my carpet, but thanks to Pepsi, even Mike can't ruin my football party.
So this football season, make Pepsi your go-to game day drink because it's the only drink made for football watching. Pepsi, that's what I like.
Duck Insider, your home for the latest news on Oregon athletics. This is the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
It's important to buckle up your kids.
I know.
Sometimes car seats can be complicated.
I know.
And if your child's in the wrong seat and you get into a crash,
I know.
it could lead to a serious injury.
I know.
So you're 100% sure you have the right car seat for your child's age and size?
I don't know.
Don't think you know. Know you know. Car crashes are a leading killer of children 1 to 13. Make sure you have the right car seat. Visit safercar.gov/the right seat. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Listen and imagine. It takes 5 seconds to send a text, and for those 5 seconds, you're driving blind. Life is worth more than a text. Stay alive. Don't text and drive.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
We're back on Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union inside the Country Financial Studio. I saw Jake asking how many scholarship softballs allowed. I believe it's 12. I believe softball has 12 for its roster. I'm like 90% sure about that. But honestly, the scholarship numbers are always all over the place. I have to double check, and I think it's 12 for softball. This week's Toyota Women's Sports Schedule Spotlight, always brought to you by Toyota Let's Go Places. Excited to get back to regular women's sports, and Melyssa Lombardi talking about that and practice, her roster, and some personnel with Missy Lombardi as the Oregon softball head coach discusses her team.
One to Jazz, who are you looking at in even the fall now in training at shortstop? Does Val move over there? I know she was basically the only one other than Rachel who had any real experience, and Allie as experience at short. And for Shea also, I had seen obviously the hip surgery, and it looked like she was also doing nursing work during all this. And Rachel's mom, I guess, is also a nurse. I realize it's like a lot of personnel, Missy, but one, your shortstop's out, and what are you doing there? But your players and what they just dealt with, not just in the season, but one with a surgery and doing the work she was doing, and the other whose family is impacted as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, this situation, it's hit everybody hard. You know, our athletes can tell you, certain circumstances with their families and things that they've had to deal with. It's been tough. It's been hard, but this team is pretty resilient, and they've been resilient since day one. Since our first season, they've been resilient. And I think of them, kind of like a boxer. You get punched a couple of times, you get knocked down, and they get back up. This team always gets back up, and that's what I love about this team. We're very athletic. We're very versatile. So you look at Allie Bunker, and she is a obviously put her at short. You look at Taya Bird and Alyssa Brito, two freshmen that are very versatile and have the ability to play shortstop. Val, I love Val because Val's that athlete that we can put her anywhere we need to put her. Like whatever it's called for, we can put her in there, and she takes care of business. So I think this team has handled that well, and I think we'll find that spot. We're going to miss Jazz, absolutely, no question. But I think this team's going to, anytime you have somebody that's going to be out, it's awesome to see what your team's going to do and how they're going to respond. And this team will respond. We'll find somebody there. There's great competition going on right now in fall practice, so we will find that shortstop.
Hi, Missy. You talked about adapting earlier. I'm just wondering, from a recruiting standpoint, how has the adapting been going with not being able to bring student athletes into town, or vice versa, you going out?
That's been different. I mean, I've been coaching now for goodness 24 years, and this last summer was the first summer that I did not get to go recruit. And that was interesting because the summer, that's when we do a lot of our recruiting. We spend a lot of time at the ball field, and not being able to do that this summer was very different. And so from there, instead of going out, you have teams, summer teams that are bringing it to us, and they're streaming their games. So I'm sitting in my kitchen counter, and I've got my iPad and my work computer and then my home computer, and I've just got it all kind of set up, and I have my normal recruiting schedule that I would have in the summer, except I'm just streaming it and watching it that way versus being there, which is great. Like I think we all appreciate what the teams that have done for us to give us an opportunity to watch. I can tell you, not being in their person, I think that's just the best part about recruiting, is really being there in person. Again, not being able to bring athletes on campus, that's a tough one, because to me, it's about coming to Oregon and really getting to see how beautiful Oregon is and the resources that you have here as a student athlete. And the Jane, our stadium is gorgeous. So that's been a tough one. And so for us, again, as coaches, we're having to be creative with the way that we recruit and with the way that we practice, just all the different things that we do. How can we be creative through COVID? And I think our staff has done a great job with it.
Kind of to follow with that, Missy, I was asking Waz this in baseball as well. So wanted to be clear, but my understanding was right. So Haley and Samaria don't count against you this year on your books because they returned. In the event, if spring, well, even for them, it comes up a little bit, but if spring is paused, like the fall and winter have been paused, which really doubles things up for you guys, but you already paused last year in a sense. My understanding was not as everybody got the year back, but that basically on the rolling basis that the seniors for the next 3-4 years wouldn't count against you. But Waz was saying, no, they haven't said that yet. They haven't given that relief yet. So in essence, so far, and I'm not blaming anybody, but that really puts the pinch on the classes of 21 and 22 recruiting wise, because sooner or later people aren't churning out and someone's going to have to pay the price. That's not terribly just. So how much havoc is this going to wreak, especially if they do pause in the spring? On one hand, again, doing right for the athletes who are here, but if it's not relief on the back end, the long-term shakeout of this is going to be pretty devastating.
Yeah, it's tough. It's every day is a new day, and we're figuring out what's happening. And for me, all I can do is just focus on what I can't worry about. What if we get canceled? I think the NCAA is going to work extremely hard for us to find a way to play. I do, because we got canceled already last year, and that was tough. That was really tough on our athletes. So, just from the talks and things that I've heard, I'm waiting to see what's going to happen.
We're all waiting to see what's going to happen, that's for sure. But I think Coach Lombardi's right. Everybody's going to do everything that they can to try and get a season in. And I think that's going to be really important for everybody because, look, we all want it. We all need it. And I loved what Coach Wasikowski said, to go back to baseball, too. This has been mentally difficult for everybody, just with everything going on. And sports can be a healing process for that, as long as we can do it safely. I think that's the real key here, as long as we can do it safely. And that's what all the coaches and student athletes are working towards right now. Today's show brought to you by Shadow Hills Country Club, your family resort just minutes from home. Call for a tour today, and by North Fork Public House, open for dine-in and takeout, northforkeugene.com. Coming up, Oregon football. They're back on the practice field. Updates after this on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
As my family continued to grow, I realized I'd have to replace my beloved Jeep with something that has, more seats. I'm Jason Hines, Country Financial Rep and father of 7. Whether you're upgrading from your sporty ride with no room for a car seat or finally replacing your well-loved beater that still has a cassette player, you'll want the right protection for your new car. Work with a Country Financial Rep like me and get the protection you need at a price you can afford. Learn more at TakeSimpleSteps.com or contact a local Country representative.
From the weight room to the classroom, on the field and off it, On Point proudly supports University of Oregon athletics because student athletes do so much more than bring us pride on game day. They bring our entire community together in Eugene and all across Oregon. So whether you're watching the game in the stadium, at home, or at your favorite local business, their success makes all of us stronger. On Point Community Credit Union. Join in. OnPointCU.com. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
This is Duck Insider. Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
Everybody buckle up. Buckle up.
Let's go.
Buckle up.
Can we go to the store? Mom,
buckle
can we get
up.
some ice cream?
Everybody, buckle up.
A lot goes on in the car, but you're in control. So only move when you hear the click that says they're buckled in. Never give up until they buckle up. Learn more at safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Most of my family, they never graduated high school, so I'm trying to break that barrier. My daughter, Brooklyn, was also a motivation for me to go back to school. Every day after work, went straight to school, and it paid off.
At age 26, Kareem finished his high school diploma.
I could not have done it alone. I see the future is really bright for me.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
We're back on Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Joey Mack here with you inside the Country Financial Studio, where we have Great Ducks coming up tonight. 5 o'clock across the Oregon Sports Network and on the Oregon football social media channels where you can watch the show. We'll talk offensive linemen and quarterbacks tonight. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have highlights. We're going to have our Dairy Mart highlight of the week. What else can I tell you about tonight? There's a lot of video that Scott Phillips has pulled, and now officially you are done pulling video for Great Duck, so congratulations.
Hey, thanks, man.
Yeah, I'm glad that you were able to do all that.
Is Jorgie on the list?
No.
Oh.
But I have something planned for Jorgie.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah. Jorgie deserves a shout-out as a Great Duck for a lot of reasons.
Except for not buying somebody dinner.
That's fine. Neither has Jerry.
Those guys.
They owe me.
Those guys.
But, hey, but tonight, Great Ducks, our final show, our final Great Duck show. And then next week, the Oregon Football Coaches Show is scheduled to return on Wednesday. So join us for that as Mario Cristobal will join us. They were back on the practice field. That's right. Ducks are back on the practice field this morning. Mario Cristobal is going to meet with the media tonight. We'll have that interview for you tomorrow. It's going to be a good day. It's going to be a good night. Coach Cristobal, Great Ducks, Duck Insider again tomorrow. We're also going to hear from Haley Cruz, Jordan Dale, Kenyon Yovan, Gabe Matthews. Didn't get to their interviews today as we zeroed in on the Diamond Sports. Probably going to do that tomorrow. Good day. See you for Great Ducks, everybody.
You took the first step and quit smoking, but even former smokers may still be at risk for lung cancer. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know about a new low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early. It takes only 60 seconds and could save your life. You took the first step, now take the next. Visit SaveByTheScan.org for a simple